Great Expectation tells the story of Pip, a broke orphan kid who suddenly gets a golden ticket to the high life. He goes from a desperate orphan to suddenly having everything he ever wanted. But is everything really everything? Let's dive into the Victorian novel, Great Expectation by Charles Dickens. The novel begins with Pip in a churchyard looking over his parents' grave when he encounters an escaped convict who threatens to kill him and orders him to bring food and a file to remove his chains. Pip is our underdog protagonist living in rural England with his nightmarish elder sister, Mrs. Joe, and her surprisingly cool husband, Joe Gregory. Pip steals food from the pantry and gives it to the convict. When the convict is later caught by Joe and the soldiers, he is touched by Pip's action and confesses to stealing the food himself. Take note of that. But here's where the real story begins. Pip is taken to his Satie's house by Mr. Pumblechook to meet Miss Havisham, a rich woman who's also a major weirdo. She's a wealthy, eccentric lady who's been wearing the same wedding dress for years after being left at the altar. The clock in her room has stopped at the same time, and she got this large banquet hall prepared for a wedding that never happened. This woman literally stopped time because her husband left her. There, he meets her adoptive daughter, Estella, beautiful, condescending, and cold hearted. Pip immediately develops a massive crush on her. Miss Havisham makes them play cards, watching as Estella shows obvious contempt for Pip's commonness. This treatment makes Pip ashamed of himself and desperate to become a gentleman. He asks Biddy, an orphan who taught him to read and also have a crush on him, by the way, to teach him everything she knows. Meanwhile, Estella continues to breadcrumb and gaslights our boy Pip. Miss Havisham eventually dismisses Pip to work as an apprentice for Joe. Pip is miserable, ashamed of his work and Joe's social status. When Pip's sister is attacked by an unknown assailant and loses her speech, Biddy comes to care for her. 4 years later, a lawyer named Jaggers informed Pip of an anonymous benefactor. Pip believes it's Miss Havisham, thinking she's preparing him to become a gentleman for Estella. Turns out, massive delulu. Pip begins to act like a jerk, secretly resenting Joe Biddy and even himself. He moves to London but is awfully disappointed in what he sees. There, he stays with Herbert Pockets, who reveals the truth about Miss Havisham's past, how she was heartbroken and adopted Estella to train her to cruelly break men's hearts. Pip becomes good friends with Wemmy, Jagger's clerk. Estella becomes more beautiful but remains cold and distant. Miss Havisham continues to encourage Pip's delusion, urging him to love Estella despite her cruelty and hinting that she is indeed Pip's benefactor. After Pip's sister dies, he attends her funeral with minimal interaction with Joe and Biddy. Biddy is unhappy with Pip, and although he feels guilty, he doesn't act on it. When Pip is 23, he is visited by Abel Magwitch, the convict from the marshes, who reveals himself as Pip's true benefactor. Pip is devastated, realizing he abandoned Joe and Biddy for a criminal. Pip confronts Miss Havisham and confesses his love to Estella, only to be coldly rejected by the girl. She announces her intention to marry Dumbo, one of Pip's acquaintances whom he disliked. This bit Pip had, even Miss Havisham is touched by his pain. During a subsequent visit, Miss Havisham begs for forgiveness, which Pip grants. She accidentally sets herself on fire, and Pip rescues her, but is burned in the process. He then discovered that Magwitch is actually Estella's father. Pip and Albert attempt to help Magwitch leave the country by water as he had been sent abroad for life, but he came back solely for the purpose of seeing Pip. But they are pursued by Competent, Magwitch's old enemy. During a confrontation, Competent drowns. By the way, Competent is the man that swindled and deceived Miss Havisham. Magwitch is sentenced to death. Before dying, Pip tells Magwitch that his daughter is alive, and Magwitch dies happy after kissing Pip's hand. Pip is heavily in debt as he had refused to accept any financial aid from Magwitch. Pip falls ill and is knocked back to health by Joe. He learns that Miss Havisham had died and left almost all her wealth to Estella. Pip plans to ask Biddy to marry him, but realizes that Biddy and Joe are getting married that same day. He begs for their pardon and all is settled. Pip goes abroad to work for Albert. He eventually succeeds by himself. 11 years later, Pip decides to go to the Satie's house one last time. There he sees Estella, who had been mistreated by her husband, who later passed on. They reconcile and he goes up with her and says he saw the shadow of no pattern with her. There you have it, folks. That's Great Expectation by Charles Dickens. Please hit the subscribe button for more classic tales. Thank you.